Had to get my bifocals here.
Okay. I'd like to call a Monday, August 31st, 2020 meeting of the Goldsboro Planning Commission to order at this time. Our first item on the agenda will be approval of minutes from the July 27th, 2020 meeting. If I could have a motion to that effect, please.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All right, Mr. Walson makes a motion that we accept the minutes as written for approval. That's seconded by Mr. Waters. All are in favor of that motion, let it be known by stating aye. Aye. Opposed, same. That motion carries. The minutes are approved. At this time, we will suspend the Planning Commission meeting in order to convene our group as the Goldsboro Board of Adjustment. So moving forward for the item that's listed as item 2 on your agenda, which is A-1-20. That will be a Board of Adjustment item that we will be acting in that capacity, and that item will be presented by our Assistant Planning Director, Mr. Talbot.
Thank you, Chairman.
And this item will be it's as a public hearing, and if there's anyone that wishes to speak, Mr. Talbot will offer some direction and some things that will need to be taken into consideration in order to proceed forward with the that portion once we open the meeting as a public hearing, and any individuals that wish to speak will need to be sworn in by our planning secretary.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening. Tonight, as Chairman Boyette spoke of, we will be discussing A-1-20, applicants by the name of Miss Wasandra Fryer Oliver, whose residence is at 601 Gloucester Road. She has a proposal for a major home occupation at her residence. The applicant is proposing the operation of a one-chair hair salon within her single-family dwelling. According to the Unified Development Code, a one-chair salon is allowed as a major home occupation only after the attainment of a special use permit approved by the Board of Adjustment. Excuse me, if you'll look tonight on page 1, forgive me for the lengthy agenda memo, but it's necessary to present this case tonight. You'll see as approval criteria for a major home occupation in accordance with our UDO, which requires a special use permit. Number 1, not more than one person who does not reside on the premises is employed by the home occupation. Number 2, not more than one exterior unilluminated sign not exceeding 2 square feet is visible evidence of the conduct of the operation. Number 3, the home occupation shall have no outdoor display or storage of goods associated with the home occupation. Number 4, no additional parking areas other than the driveways shall be located in the required front setback. Number 5, no wholesale or retail sales of goods shall occur on the premises. 6, barber and beauty shops and hair, nail, and skin care businesses shall be limited to one-chair operations. 7, the major home occupation permit shall be issued to the applicant at the residence indicated on the application and shall not run with the land. As you will recall, variances which we have issued in the past actually do run with the land. But in this case, major home occupations, this is not a variance, this is a major home occupation and shall only be issued to the applicant and shall not run with the land. Second page. Number 8, changes to the intensity, use, or to another dwelling or structure on the property, or change in the applicant for which the original permit was issued shall require a new application for a special use permit. And number 9, the Board of Adjustment shall conduct a public hearing for the proposed major home occupation and shall approve the special use permit before operation of the same. The next section will cover approval criteria for all home occupations. Let's see, I will try to make this brief. The business or occupation shall be located entirely within the principal structure. Business shall not occupy more than 25% of the total gross floor area or 500 square feet, whichever is less. Number 2 does not apply. There are no accessory buildings associated with this major home occupation. So we'll move on to 3. The principal person or persons providing the service or conducting the business shall reside in the dwelling on the premises. 4, again, this does not apply to the hearing because the home occupation will be within the principal dwelling. Number 5, outdoor storage of goods and materials shall be prohibited. Sale of goods and materials on the premise shall be prohibited, except that items for sale incidental to the service being provided through the home occupation may be permitted. Moving on to item 6, home occupation shall not use any equipment or process that creates noise, vibration, smoke, dust, glare, fumes, odor, or electronic interference detectable at the lot line. Number 7, home occupation shall not cause a change in the external appearance of the existing structure on the premises. Number 8, the residential character of the premises and building within which the home occupation is being conducted shall be maintained at all times and shall not be changed. 3rd page, no traffic shall be generated by such home occupation in greater volume than would normally be expected in a residential neighborhood. Parking requirements shall conform to the requirements of this ordinance and shall be provided within an area on the lot other than the established front setback being that area from the front property line to the front line of the building, extending side lot line to side lot line. Let's see. Number 10, all vehicles used in the conduct of the home occupation shall be of a size and located on the premises in such a manner such as not to disrupt the quiet nature and visual quality of the neighborhood. Okay, so with all those approval criteria listed before you there, I'm now going to go into the findings of fact and what staff has determined as being findings of fact for this proposal for a major home occupation. The subject property is located at 601 Gloucester Road, Goldsboro, North Carolina. The subject property is located inside the city limits of the city of Goldsboro. City and water and sewer services are available to serve the property. The home and lot are located in an R12 residential zoning district. Major home occupations are allowed in the R12 residential zoning district only after the attainment of a special use permit approved by the Board of Adjustment. The applicant is proposing to enclose an existing one-car garage, 13 feet by 27 feet, for approximately 400 square feet for the operation of the major home occupation, the one-chair salon, if the special use permit is approved by the Board of Adjustment. A public hearing was scheduled for this proposed major home occupation in the large conference room located here at City Hall, and was advertised, for the 31st of August, and advertised in the News Argus on August 13th and August 20th of 2020. The last thing with our findings of facts, the submitted application and accompanying plans comply with the provisions of the Home Occupation Ordinance in accordance with Section 5.5.4 Special and Conditional Use Specific Regulations. All righty, now we're getting down to the meat of our meeting tonight regarding the major home occupation. Please pay special attention to this section. This is the special use permit criteria for approval by the Board of Adjustment. If the application and accompanying plans for a special use permit comply with all the provisions of the Home Occupation Ordinance, the Board of Adjustment shall issue the requested permit unless it concludes, based upon the information submitted at the hearing, that if completed as proposed, the development, number 1, will substantially endanger the public health or welfare, or number 2, will substantially injure the beneficial use of adjoining or abutting property, or, number 3, will not be in harmony with existing development and uses within the area in which it is located, or will not be in general conformity with the comprehensive plan, thoroughfare plan, or other plan officially adopted by City Council. I'm going to skip on down. So, as a recommendation tonight, you have 2 options. You can either approve the special use permit, or you can deny the special use permit. But keep in mind, in doing so, you must have a minimum of 5 votes to approve this special use permit. The last section, if you will, I'll draw your attention to it on page 4 or 5 at the bottom. It says, note, a motion to approve the special use permit by the Board of Adjustment requires a 4/5 vote, and the board need not make any further findings and may issue the permit. If such a motion is not made or fails to receive the required 4/5 vote, then a motion shall be made that the application is not in compliance with one or more of the requirements of this ordinance. Such a motion shall specify the requirements the application failed to meet. The second paragraph, it says, if the board concludes that the application complies with all the other provisions of this ordinance, it may still deny the application for one or more of the reasons specified in the special use permit criteria, items 1 through 4, listed after the findings of facts, which you see at the top of that page 4, one of those 4 there. So again, just keep in mind a minimum of 5 votes is needed to approve the SUP. Based on what staff has already said, in that first paragraph at the bottom, it says that the board need not make any further findings and may issue the permit if the application is in compliance with one or more of the requirements of this ordinance. And we have said, based off of staff's review, that the application and accompanying plans are in compliance with our ordinance. So, with that being said, I'd like to make a few more comments before the chairman opens this up to a public hearing. This is an evidentiary hearing. It is not like a standard rezoning request. So in saying that, caution should be exercised when testimony is presented. Opinions and feelings are not considered admissible in this quasi-judicial proceeding. No opinions, unless an expert is called to offer or dispute a fact, and no information on any unrelated issue can be considered by the reviewing or decision-making body. So please keep that in mind when you're deliberating this tonight. Chairman, would you like me to make some comments regarding the introduction of anyone who would like to come and present sworn testimony?
Are the people that are outside that's going to, I assume, speak, are they able to hear this so far? Is there something out there where they've heard your instructions? Because I think it would be beneficial to know whether or not the intended speakers have heard their direction.
I'm not sure, Chairman.
He couldn't understand.
Okay.
They probably could not either.
Okay, well, I guess then when we bring each person in, that last little tidbit of information, it might be beneficial to, or either to step out and let them know, but there again, if you need to be speaking in a public forum here, it may not be able to go out and tell them that, but they need to know what to do.
Well, Chairman, if you will, with the permission of the board, I'll be glad to step outside and read that section of our agenda memo, so it is clear regarding opinions as admissible evidence.
Is that okay with our city attorney?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, if you would do that, and then when you get done with that, then I'll open the the public hearing, and then we'll start bringing in the ones that would wish to speak on this item.
Can I ask Mr. Calvin a question?
Absolutely.
Subject to the attorney's approval, if this is appropriate to ask, has the staff reached any conclusions as to whether or not this will be in harmony with existing development and uses in the area?
No, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, we will pause for just a minute to allow Mr. Touton to speak with the people that are interested in possibly coming inside to speak, so they will have proper instruction. So we'll pause until you are ready.
Thank you.
We have two items after this when we reconvene as planning commission, it looks like. A site plan and a subdivision plan.
I'm good so far. Luckily. They're actually okay. These tables just happen not to be under.
I guess for those that are on pause at home, continue to bear with us as you're watching this. We are currently in COVID mode and are operating outside of our normal meeting location, and the sequestered audience does not have audio to be able to hear the proceedings that's happened just so far like they would if we were in council chambers under normal conditions. So continue to bear with us for a few more minutes as our Assistant Planning Director is giving some direction to the members of the public outside that wish to come in and speak on the item that's before us.
Chairman, I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay. We'll now open the item before us as a public hearing and welcome our guests that are outside that wish to speak on this item in one at the time, and they will need to be sworn in by our Assistant Planning Staff Secretary whenever they come in to speak. And then you'll proceed forward to the podium and give your remarks.
Chairman, is there a time limit on the speaking?
Pardon me?
Is there a time limit on the,
No, sir.
no? Okay.
I'll do my best as chairman to keep it moving, though.
That's the home.
Good evening, sir. You can proceed with your comments when you're ready. And if you will, give your name for the record, because we didn't hear you when you did so when you were sworn in.
My name is James Jones.
James Jones?
Yes.
Okay. You can proceed with your comments.
Okay. I guess I should say I'm here opposing this change that we're talking about. I represent 66 people who have signed a petition who also are in disagreement. I moved to Hanley Acres 18 years ago, and I searched a long time to find a retirement neighborhood in Goldsboro, and that became the place. When I moved, I checked. There were restrictions for the subdivision, there's zoning for the city of Goldsboro, and I accepted that that's the way things would be. And everybody else that moved out here had the same restrictions and the same zoning. I would like to see that continued. I understand this is to be a beauty parlor, but I look at it as like the crack in the dam. What's going to happen in a year, 3 years, 5 years, who else is going to open what kind of business? And this will be considered as a precedent. I don't know, maybe that's just a fear. But my neighbors, like I say, are opposed to it. And the zoning was against it, and the subdivision restrictions prohibit it. Everything says single-family residential. My only other comment is traffic. Traffic is getting worse very rapidly, primarily because of the Greenway access, which is at the end of the street we're talking about. Everyone who comes into or out of Hanley Acres subdivision has to pass this house. It's on the corner. There's no other way in or out. Traffic can be heavy with school buses. Any parked car would certainly be an impediment. And I guess that's all I've got to say.
Thank you, sir, for your comment.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask him a question?
Certainly.
You say that this is a subdivision. Are there any restrictive covenants for this
Yes, there are.
subdivision?
The subdivision is restricted to single-family residential.
Okay.
I think that's going to be a question that will probably arise certainly at some point before we close the public hearing, would be to confirm that there are restrictive covenants and that they are still valid, because if the restrictive covenants are still in place, then I don't see how the request could meet item number 2 and 3 on the criteria.
Right.
So, but we need to allow.
Something we'll need to know.
I have a copy of the restrictions and a copy of the deed that says that it's subject to the restrictions. If you would like it, I'll leave it with you.
I'm sure that'd be okay to leave those with Ms. Creighton, if you, as you're stepping out, if you want to leave a copy with her, so that the next person can come in and speak. We appreciate your comments.
Thank you for your time.
Chairman, this may be an opportune time to answer that question so that you won't be thinking the whole way through that some of that information may not be correct.
Okay.
Well, if someone can confirm, or if the city staff or city attorney can confirm whether or not there are restrictive covenants that are valid on that neighborhood, it would be my opinion that it would be impossible for the request to meet all 4 of the criteria.
I would just like to say that we have been informed that there are restrictive covenants within the subdivision. I don't have a copy of that, but I wanted to let you know what the law is regarding restrictive covenants. Restrictive covenants are not enforceable by the city of Goldsboro. They are enforced by individual owners, whether they're within condominium complexes, planned communities, or homeowners association. So I just wanted to point out to you that that's something that if there are restrictive covenants that are existing and legitimate within the subdivision, that's something that the city of Goldsboro would have no part in enforcing those covenants. That would have to be between the landowner and the homeowners association, and they would have to present that case in court.
Correct. I think that would, what you're saying is that would be a civil matter, but the attorney's got something to offer as well.
Yes, sir.
Everybody's had a chance to speak. So I think we're kind of getting into a debate
Okay.
regarding those issues and give an opportunity for everybody to be heard. And then
Okay.
we'll talk, then y'all can discuss those. And I can
Okay.
ask any questions.
Sure thing. Thank you.
And thank you for the information, Mr. Talbot.
Could we inform the remaining speakers that we're aware of the restrictive covenant, so they don't have to repeat it?
I think that's,
I think you can do that when they come in.
okay.
Yep.
Then we'll proceed with the next person that would like to come in and speak. And then, of course, we'll absolutely allow the applicant to be able to speak whenever the ones here are done.
Left hand. Sorry. Just state your name when you step on. Thank you.
Nancy McCall. I live at 205 Glen Oak Drive. Thank you for having us today, and I also thank you all for going through the proper channels so your neighbors could have a chance to talk about this. I do appreciate that very much. First of all, I have a copy of a covenant, and the covenant use of land and size of building, no lot shall be used except for residential purposes.
Okay.
If you would pass that.
And the person that spoke before you provided us with that, and the board is aware that those covenants are in place. Can you proceed forward with your comments?
I know I'm not supposed to give opinions, so I'll try not to. We have no other businesses in our neighborhood. We've been there for 28 years. There's never been a business. I think many of the neighbors feel that there could be an adverse effect on our property values and the resale values of our home. This business would be at one of the main entrances into our neighborhood. Now, since this person said something about this, I am going to give my opinion. A one-chair beauty salon does not mean that you will have only one customer at a time. Beauty salons operators typically serve more than one customer at a time. Appointments sometimes take longer with us ladies. Customers come early, and customers stay beyond the designated time to socialize. This has the potential of a good number of automobiles parked in the streets and in front of adjoining homes. When vehicles are parked in the streets in our neighborhood, not two cars can go down the street at the same time. We have a parking problem on on Gloucester further down. And this is not an opinion. I talked to the guy this morning. Our poor sanitation department can barely do their job trying to get down Gloucester. And I asked him, I said, this is my opinion. He goes, it's terrible. It is very hard for me to do my job. It delays me in doing my job, and I do not feel safe, and I could easily damage one of these cars in the street. During COVID, we need to appreciate our essential workers, and they are. I do not know how the people on that end of Gloucester that are responsible for picking up debris get to the yards. We had a UPS man who could not deliver a package. He had to park in the middle of the street and put on his blinkers. Also, on Lock Haven, there is a daycare. And at that daycare, at least 2 buses a day come, and they pick up children from the daycare, and then they put, at the end of the day, the kids are left off at the daycare. Now, they can't safely turn around on Lock Haven, so they come around our neighborhood, which is great because it's so much safer. So they go all the way down Glen Oak, and then they come up on Gloucester. I do not know, when there are cars on the street, how those buses safely negotiate. It has to be stressful. It has to be, especially if you're carrying kids. We have no sidewalks in our neighborhood, which is fine. But we have a lot of walkers, a lot of bicycle riders. We also have 2 apartments that love to walk in our neighborhood. It's a perfect mile, come walk, and it's a pretty walk. And, but when someone is walking and you're driving a car and there's parking, it's dangerous. It really is a concern. Also, the folks from the hospital walk down Wayne Memorial, and they take their lunch breaks, and they walk in our neighborhood too. So, you know, we just have a concern about safety and additional vehicles in our neighborhood. And any questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Sorry I was shaking so much.
Thank you. My name is Gerard McCall. You just heard from my wife, Nancy. I'm going to make this short. She's made a lot of good points that are fact. I just want to reiterate, as you all know, that there is a restrictive covenant that was enacted in November of 1965. It has been maintained since that time, the first 30 years, and then it was renewed in 95, 2005, and 2015. There's been no opposition to this, and it would take the homeowners to change it. My last point, to exemplify what my wife was saying about traffic, particularly, if I can move over here, Lock Haven and Gloucester. On Gloucester and in every other street in our neighborhood, you can't safely park a car on both sides of the street and then have cars going in opposite directions pass. Entrepreneurship is a wonderful thing. Our opposition is not to squash an entrepreneur in any way, but the safety of the neighborhood. And item number 3, I think, would unfortunately negate this application. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Let's see if there's anyone else that wishes to speak. Good evening.
Hey, good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is Christian. I'm an adjacent property owner, and I'm asking the board to consider 2 things that I see as a concern for this request. Number 1, unlike the request to have a home office business whereby you don't have customer clientele traffic coming in and out of the premise or neighborhood, This business would be a business service function that depends on clientele coming to the neighborhood, and that creates traffic concerns. Maybe not major traffic concerns, but a traffic concern nonetheless. The second thing is that the majority of Spring Valley, which is the subdivision, and Hanley Acres, which it's connected to, are in opposition as submitted to you by the petition. I understand that the city may not be at liberty to uphold the restrictive covenants of the neighborhood, but please consider that by granting the request, by granting the request and going against the restrictive covenants, the board may create ill will between neighbors that's not there. Finally, the issue of granting the request as a whole. Granting this request will establish a precedent for other and like requests in our neighborhood, and it just may open up Pandora's box. And I ask you to consider that, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Was there anyone else that wishes to speak?
Had some additional people on your list? No? It's up to them if they want to speak or not.
Anyone else that wishes to speak? Do we need some overhead light on by chance? Okay.
You want it on?
Hey. We appreciate everyone's patience as we move through the process. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, ma'am, if you will.
This is Velma Joyce Carl Fryer, was Shonda's mother. And I thank the Lord, that she wants to work and she need a place to work. And I hope and pray that it comes through all right. And God will bless you. Real good. I know He will.
And thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Was there anyone outside now that wishes to speak?
No one else? Officer, anyone else out there? No one.
Okay. Would the applicant like to come forward and speak at this time?
We just have to get sworn in, please. It's all right.
Sir, will you be speaking?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
I guess by now everyone knows my name, but I'm Washonda Fryer Oliver. Goldsboro says, be more, do more, see more. So good evening, board members and the city of Goldsboro. I would like to take this time to thank everyone for allowing me to speak this evening. As I stated, my name is Washonda Fryer Oliver. I am requesting permission to continue my lifetime journey with cosmetology at 601 Gloucester Road, Goldsboro, NC 27534. Before I get started, I would like to tell you a little bit about myself so you would know. I am from a small farm in Turkey, North Carolina, where I grew up God-fearing and was taught that anything is possible.
Take your time.
Okay. I began this journey as a shampoo tech at a booth rental on Walnut Street. I can't help it. I stayed with Miss Peggy for 14 years paying booth rent. I then moved because of air conditioning units went out. This is the only reason why I left Miss Peggy. She was a good owner of the salon. I then went to Vera's Hair Vision that was on Ash Street. She told me when I got there that she was planning on retiring. And I took over the salon from her in January of 2009. As we all know, Matthew came through and flooded me out. That was in 2016. I then moved to 2906 East Ash Street, which is up the hills, thinking I wouldn't get flooded. In the process, I got my master's in cosmetology as a teacher that I'm doing now. And then COVID-19 hit. The business slowed down, and this is very important that I continue to work as a cosmetology. The overhead is so overwhelming that if I don't move into my home, I will lose it. Excuse me. I have been a member of the Chamber of Commerce since 2009. I'm a citizen of this community that I'm living in now. And it hurts to know that someone would talk against you taking care of yourself. Oh, God. Operate my business out of my home and not interrupt any of the neighborhood or even have cars that would be parked on the street. As you can see, I have a circle driveway. So in the circle driveway, it holds four cars at least, and then the others would be mine, which would be parked here or here. I can only take one customer at a time. So there would be no cars parked on the street at all. That's the rules and regulations, even from state board, because of the COVID. So that wouldn't be an issue. They would come in, they would pull in and pull out, so they could see no visual constrictions or anything on the street. There wouldn't be a problem with parking on the street at all. I will maintain compliance with the city codes, as I have adhered to those in the past, wherever I was. I have developed the plan to maintain the parking, and I'm asking that you please grant this permit. I thank you so much.
Thank
I
you
have
for
a
your
question. Can I ask you a question? Yeah. So nowhere in here does it say anything about hours of operation,
It's on my application, sir, from 9:30 to 5.
9:30 to 5?
Yes, sir.
And it says in here about a lit sign, 2 foot square. Are you gonna have a lit sign?
No, sir. My clientele is already established, even though I have lost some of those. But I wouldn't need all of those if I was in my home.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. There's no one else that wishes to speak at this time. If there's no one else that wishes to speak, we'll close this public hearing, and we'll hear any comments or discussion at this time from the board and/or a motion.
I would like to know if there's a particular way you can determine, I know I see the curved driveway, but in particularly, how many actual parking spaces the lot can hold?
The circle driveway, from the picture of it, looks like there'd be 3 or 4 vehicles that would fit into the circle driveway.
I mean, I know we can
that would be
estimate it, but.
reasonable. Is that answering?
Right, yeah, I mean, I can look at it and estimate, but I'm just wondering if there, in particularly, I know that it's only one chair, and so it's not necessarily a threat to the parking, but being that so many are concerned about it, if there was a way to even just say how many how many parking
Right.
spaces there are on the lot.
I definitely see that Ms. Barnett makes a valid point with whether or not there would be vehicles that were in the street. I think that probably what the discussion is going to boil down to for the board and what we're supposed to make our decision on, as you know from Board of Adjustment, is whether or not the request meets the criteria that the state has established by statute in order for us to adhere to make a decision on these items. And as Mr. Talton pointed out, the city itself is not in the business of enforcing restrictive covenants because that's a civil matter. However, if the restrictive covenants are in place and the neighborhood has gone over and above to continue to renew those covenants like clockwork, it would be safe for us to assume as a board what the intended harmony of the neighborhood is. So under the circumstances that it's been established that the covenants are in fact in place, then I don't see how the request can get past item number 2 or item number 3, because the opinion of the neighborhood is established by the covenants that everyone adheres to when they buy their home in the neighborhood. So I think if we were to approve this item, it's been established that the covenants are valid. It wouldn't be the city that would be taking action against the applicant. It would be the neighborhood that intends to take action to prevent the applicant from doing what she's asking us to allow her to do. The neighborhood is not going to allow her to do that, even if we say it's approved. Would that be an accurate description in your opinion?
I understand that. I don't really see how the covenants are affecting 2 and 3. It has to be in harmony, so that means, it's going to be in her built-on garage. She's not doing any changes to the building, and it's no substantial injury to the properties as far as parking is concerned. That's the only injury I could think of would be parking.
Okay. Well, I think what my opinion would be that the injury would come into play because the neighborhood has established this is what we want done for our neighborhood, and if something happens that is not in line with that, then that's where the injury would be. And again, I'm not voting here, I'm simply...
No, but if we were to prove it, then the neighborhood could justifiably file a lawsuit to...
That is exactly correct, as I understand it, and has happened in times past.
Mr. Lawrence, the instructions say that it requires a 4/5 vote. Does that mean the chairman does vote? There's only 5 of us here.
It's going to require 5 out of the 7 to vote. Now, I've not read the requirements for voting. If it's in case of a tie, the chairman votes. You know, on the city council, of course, the mayor votes all the time.
Right.
So, but that would be a question to have Mr. Talton or somebody to pull the Board of Adjustment rules on that. It's a good question.
Well, I know that's the case for the planning commission, that the only time the chairman has a vote is if it's to break a tie. I do not know if that's the case for the Board of Adjustment.
We can have that pulled in just a few minutes.
Okay.
And for clarification, I wanted to say something too that I just noticed in the agenda memo with regards to page 3 of 5, number 9 at the top. Parking requirements shall conform to the requirements of the ordinance shall be provided within an area on the lot other than the established front setback. And the established front setback being that area from the front property line to the front line of the building. I just want to make sure that the applicant, this is something that has not been pointed out. But if you'll follow this red line here, it appears that based off of the GIS maps here, the parking actually ends here. Paved parking, it will need to be paved. But right here, I'm seeing a car here, and Ms. Fryer, I just want to let you know if we do, the board does approve the request, that it does say in number 9 that it doesn't need to be in the front setback. So what you would have to do is actually, right here where you see this car, there would need to be at least a 9-foot wide by 18-foot long paved area for a car, which she has plenty of room to do that without any problem.
Right.
But you would need to make preparations if and when the time should come there. Yes, ma'am.
Where you see the circle,
Yes, ma'am.
there's a double car paved in front of that building. It's double car park.
Yes, ma'am, I do. Unfortunately, it's just in what we consider the front setback of the home. And so according to our ordinance, the actual, you would have to have a place here on the side, in the side setback here, which you have plenty of room. We just need a paved surface there for the.
I think the reason why that car was parked there was probably because the grass was being cut or something like that.
Sure, and that's fine. But like I said, if the board were to approve, parking for the salon would not be allowed in the front setback. It would have to be off to the side. You know, as long as you understand that, if the board's approved, that's all. That's correct.
Okay.
So I'm gonna, that's correct. It can't be in the circle either. It would have to be to the side, and then basically your clients would back out, and then they could use the circle to get out if need be.
That's no problem.
Thank you for pointing that out, and that would speak to Ms. Barnett's question as well, because I think we overlooked that during the.
Sure thing. I'm gonna step downstairs and see if I can't find that information that the attorney was saying with regards to the chairman having a vote. I'll be right back.
Do we need to pause until he does that? Okay.
I think you could probably have discussions further.
Can we
until
continue with
I think
discussion?
continue discussions.
Since we're in the
Until you get to the
presence of
point
our
you're going to have
attorney.
a vote, then I think you'll need to wait
Okay.
until he gets back to that.
That's fine with me then. Since we're in the presence of our attorney, we can continue to discuss the item as the board sees fit or its members.
I think nonetheless, it's going to require 5 to pass the motion.
Well,
So excluding you, there's still 5.
we
that
still
could-
have 5, right?
That could pass the motion.
Mr. Walson, did you have comments?
I have great sympathy for the applicant, but in my opinion, it's not in harmony with the existing development is single family without businesses. So I don't see how allowing the businesses in harmony with the existing development, and for that reason, I'll be voting to deny the application.
Okay. And I tend to agree with what Mr. Walston has stated. And please know that I absolutely, positively admire the entrepreneurial spirit of the applicant, because I've 27 years in business for myself. I know what that's like, and making ends meet. So I admire that entrepreneurial spirit, but like Mr. Walston said, it's a great idea in the wrong place, it seems, in Mr. Walston's opinion, as it relates to the covenants of the neighborhood. But we certainly would like to have the board's input and our members' input, and ultimately, when Mr. Talton returns, we'll need a motion. Mr. Attorney?
I just want to offer the fact that under number 3, there is an and that's there, so it requires, you're going to have specificity anyway with regards to that motion. And so that says, and not in harmony with the development and within the area. So I think you've got to consider the second half of number 3 as well. You're discussing the first half. Restrictive covenants just apply to the development itself. But outside of that development, within the immediate area, there is a difference other than just residential homes there.
Right.
So that, I think, is part of number 3. If you're looking at number 3, that has to be taken into consideration.
Meaning on Lockhaven Drive, for example, how you have a mixed use of things going on there.
That's correct.
Working Girl Scouts
And
there
would
on
the
Lockhaven
immediate
Drive.
area around Lockhaven Drive that is contiguous to this street be any of that as part of the covenants?
The covenants are just going to apply to that specific subdivision. This says Spring Valley is what those covenants.
Okay, I didn't know if any of those lots at Lockhaven were originally part of that or not, so.
They, that I can't answer. I've not done a title search on any of the surrounding properties for any reason.
Okay.
But you have, you can take judicial notice, so to speak, of what exists around there anyway, from just public knowledge of what exists.
Okay.
Whether it's the Harris Teeter or whether it's the, what is it called, Walgreens or something on one corner, and then the dental center on another corner.
Are there any more questions or comments or discussion while we're waiting for Mr. Talton to return from any of our other board members?
One question I have, not really a question, it's a statement, that when do we give a chance to change and increase? I understand that we have a lot of people who are fighting against this, and going in, I wasn't too sure, but now they're looking and seeing what we have before us and what's around that area. My question is, how fair is that according to what the guidelines are? That we, even if we give it a chance to say, let's say we've said, go get the permit, what have you, and you said that they could still come back as, with a lawsuit. Is that what was said?
Correct.
Okay. How does that affect us going forward? And that wouldn't be upon our judgment or per se on what we have decided to give someone a chance to do something else with it?
If you're asking me for my opinion, no, I don't think that what we do in that regard is going to have a direct effect, because we're not the ones that are going to have to enforce the action. I think our position, or what my position, or what Mr. Walston stated, is when we're thinking of the neighborhood as a whole and what that neighborhood's intention was for the lots that pertain to that subdivision, was plainly for it to never be used for anything other than residential, and those covenants continue to be renewed each year, and the applicant, of course, was aware of those restrictions when the property was purchased, because obviously that's part of the deed with the restrictive covenants. So
I think it's like a matter.
That's that, you know.
I think it's a matter of understanding like what their fears are, that this is a big business that's going to bring all the traffic in, and the reality of it is that it's in her garage, and it's one chair, and it's not going to cause the, I guess, some of the apprehensions that they're having. And what it's intended for is a single-family residential, which is what she's doing. She is living in her home, and she's just having an operation. So it's just a matter of, I think people are wanting this, and it's a lot of people not wanting it, and that's the majority of their neighborhood, but it's not affecting them in those. It doesn't affect them. And also, we can't assume that the lawsuit is going to be substantiated. This is a statement I have.
To me, the key factor for me was that 66 people that live in the neighborhood signed the petition stating that they were in opposition to it, so for me. But I absolutely get what you're saying, and of course, we as a board have to be able to state how we feel so we can all come to a conclusion on these items, so. Mr. Bauer or Mr. Waters, would either one of you have a comment at this time or any discussion or questions?
Well, my original thought was I didn't really care for that garage being converted, but, that sort of ruins the effect of a house. Reading the covenants over here, that it clearly says that the use of the land, size of the building, no lot shall be used except for residential purposes, no building shall be erected, altered, placed, or permitted to remain on any lot other than a detached single family. So it does say there that it's only to be used for residential purposes, and the people that bought into this subdivision, and I don't know about the applicant, whether she was aware of these covenants when she purchased the house, but they go along with the land, so it should be part of the deed. So I'm looking at that item number 3, that it won't be in harmony with the existing development and uses within the area, and within the area I take as the subdivision.
Once Mr. Talton gets back seated, if there is no further discussion or questions of staff, then someone can feel free to make a motion at that time.
I wanted to ask a question.
Okay.
To the attorney.
Okay.
But I think that actually, they've already explained it about the business, that Goldsboro had no authority to stop it, is that right? City, right? Or control it, is that right, Mr. Talbot?
I'm sorry.
The city has no authority on her having that business, yes or no, out there,
Related to covenant.
related to the covenants that they have.
That is correct.
Okay. I think we'd already answered that, but I want to be sure.
We've continued with discussion while you were down in the office, but of course I advised everyone that we would, on the advice of our attorney, to make sure that we didn't proceed with any sort of motion until you return.
And Chris, I think just what I said a minute ago, you've got 6 here, so technically you wouldn't vote because 5 is required anyway to pass the motion.
Okay.
One way or the other, whether it's a motion to deny or a motion to allow. So you wouldn't vote because you got 6. You'd have to have all 5 of the others have to vote the same way. If it doesn't, then either one of those motions fail and no action's taken. Then you're asking me a different question. I have to find an answer to it, to what you do next.
Yeah, because I don't think if that happens in all my 20 years of being here that that's ever happened before, if it, in fact, it turns out to be the case, so hang around. If there's any further questions or discussion, we will entertain a motion at this time. From any board member that wishes to make it.
Motion to approve.
Okay? Ms. Barnett has made a motion to approve the Board of Adjustment item that's before us. Does Ms. Barnett's motion have a second? If her motion does not have a second, then that motion would die. Is there a second to that motion? Okay. We do not have a second to that motion, so that motion would fail, and we will entertain another motion if someone would like to make a different motion.
Chairman, I make the motion that we deny the application on the basis that it will not be in harmony with existing development and uses within the area in which it is located.
Okay. Mr. Walson has made a motion to deny the Board of Adjustment item that's before us. Do we have a second to Mr. Walson's motion to deny this item?
I'll second it.
Okay. Mr. Bauer seconds that motion, so a motion has been made to deny the item before us, item A-1-20, Board of Adjustment. All in favor of the motion to deny this item as presented, please raise your hand. Okay, and all opposed to the motion to deny, please raise your hand. Okay, that motion is a 3-2 motion, which is not enough to satisfy the 4/5 majority. So that motion would fail as well. Yes, he's waiting for us to ask. I think he's already looking at an answer. I don't ever recall this happening before, but this is the
I
first
think
time
it's
for
going to
everything.
require 4/5 to pass. I don't think it requires 5 to fail. So I think you've got to be specific in your motion and your findings as far as that goes, so the applicant has a basis if they were to try to appeal the matter as to base their appeal upon.
Okay, we had a properly properly presented motion to approve that failed and a properly presented motion to deny, and both of those motions were properly presented, correct?
So the second one was properly presented. You had the first motion that was a motion, no second, right?
That's correct.
Okay, then you had a second motion to deny the application based upon Mr. Walston's assertions as far as number 3 under the rules. And then that motion was a 3-2 in favor of Mr. Walston's motion to deny.
That is correct.
Okay, in my opinion, that motion carries because the motion for 5 to approve is what's required. It's not saying that it's 5 to deny.
Okay. Well, thank you for that clarification, because that resolves that matter, and this item is denied. Okay? And at this time, that concludes the Board of Adjustments business, and at this time, we will resume our duties as the Goldsboro Planning Commission and pick up at item 3 on the agenda, and those items will continue to be presented by Mr. Talton, our Assistant Planning Director. Just take a break. And before we proceed with that, we're going to take a 5-minute break and allow everyone to take a restroom break or get some water or something, and we will be back in 5 minutes. All right, we will pick up where we left off with Goldsboro Planning Commission business, item 3 on the agenda, and those items will be presented, as I stated earlier, by our Assistant Planning Director, Mr. Talton.
Moving along, Mr. Chairman, the subject property is located on the south side of Spence Avenue between North Hillcrest Drive and Casual Drive. The applicant is proposing a Precision Tune Auto Care at this particular location. The zoning for the property is general business, just over an acre and a quarter of real estate involved. Property is currently clear and vacant and is located between 2 existing restaurants. West of the site is a Burger King and east of the site is Jay's Kitchen. Non-residential developments on parcels that disturb greater than an acre shall be approved by Goldsboro City Council. Submitted site plan indicates a 2-story brick veneer commercial building of approximately 7,000 square feet. Applicant proposes to use the facility as an auto inspection, repair, and service center. A floor plan has been provided, which consists of a waiting room, laptop, internet bar, kids zone, offices, parts, supply storage area, and restrooms for customers and employees of the business. On the first floor of the facility, fronting Spence Avenue. In addition, 10 garage bays are located at the rear of the facility for automobile inspection, service, and repair. The second floor consists of a mezzanine for heating and air equipment, and mechanical exhaust systems, and miscellaneous storage. As you see, the hours of operation Monday through Friday and Saturday. Maximum number of employees be 12. Access again to the site will be provided from a 24-foot wide driveway cut off of Spence Avenue. Since Spence Avenue is an NCDOT state-maintained road, a driveway permit will be required and approved in accordance with NCDOT standards. A total of 47 paved parking spaces have been provided, including 2 handicap-accessible parking spaces. The applicant has been informed that the auto repair facilities and all outdoor storage areas for vehicles other than customer parking shall be screened from public view in accordance with the city's Unified Development Code. Make note here, applicant has informed staff that there will be no outside storage of automobiles after business hours. 6-foot interior sidewalks and handicap ramps have been provided for access by customers and employees from the parking lot to building entrances. Exterior sidewalks are not shown on the site plan. According to our UDO, exterior sidewalks are required for the new development. I'll have more to say about that in just a minute. Landscaping, the site plan indicates a proposed type A 10-foot wide landscape buffer along the western, southern, and eastern property lines. A total of 4 street trees are proposed along Spence Avenue. There is a storm water retention pond shown at the rear of the property, which will be screened with evergreen shrubs here. The proposed automobile inspection and repair service center's exterior building materials consist of brick veneer walls, exterior insulation finishing systems, metal awnings, and copings with windows and doors of tinted glazing. Let's see. Interconnectivity has been provided on the submitted site plan at the front and rear of the property adjacent to the eastern property line. The property is not located in a special flood hazard area, and water and sewer are available to serve the site. Stormwater calculations, grading, and drainage plans have been submitted. The applicant will be required to meet the city's engineering standards before construction permits are released. And of course, we have a refuse collection by a proposed garbage dumpster at the rear of the site, which will be screened from public view. One thing I wanted to bring to your attention, there were several items that the developer has currently been working with staff, one of which is, I know, kind of hard to see here, But there's a parapet here that's longer than 100 foot in length, and our UDO requires that we break that parapet up with some three-dimensional cornices and other items that would help break that 100-foot view. So they have resubmitted building elevations to show a rise off the parapet wall here and where it comes back down to meet that requirement. Other items that they have addressed are additional landscaping items, vegetation within the parking lot, and landscape islands as well. One item in particular was sidewalks on the site plan. It's pretty difficult to see here, but they had proposed, originally had not proposed sidewalks, then the city asked that they consider that since it was considered new development. Also, our pedestrian facilities plan actually calls for it as well. But in talking with them, the developer, and with NCDOT officials, due to existing site conditions and the fact that since NCDOT, if they were to propose or to install sidewalks, they would have to put the sidewalks within the NCDOT's public right-of-way. And NCDOT, it's their recommendation that those sidewalks not be installed due to the fact that if there are future road improvements within that area, that they're going to have to tear them out and reconstruct back again. So we have concluded that it's best that they consider asking for a modification of the sidewalk requirement and pay the fee in lieu of. We do not have any sidewalks located in that area. The closest sidewalk we have is along Ash Street where Southern Bank is located at the intersection of Ash and Spence there. So with that being said, it appears as we're going forward to the end of the agenda memo. That is the one thing that I did want to bring to your attention. They will be asking for a modification of the exterior sidewalk requirement, and if approved, they will pay the fee in lieu of for the frontage requirement along Spence Avenue. Are there any questions regarding this particular site?
Okay. Is there any questions of staff or comments? If not, we'll take a motion on this item.
I'll go ahead and move to approve.
Okay. We have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Bauer makes a motion to approve item 3A on the agenda as presented by staff, and also to approve the modification of sidewalk requirement, and that's also subject to staff approval of the landscape, elevation, and lighting plans. And that's seconded by Mr. Waters. All in favor of that motion, let it be known by stating aye. Aye. Opposed, same. The motion carries.
Fantastic. The last item to be considered tonight is a subdivision plan request by Habitat for Humanity. Let's see. Habitat has recently acquired 9 existing private parcels located on the south side of West Grantham Street between North Alabama Avenue, West US 70 Highway, and the west side of North Georgia Avenue. The applicant intends to recombine and divide portions of previously subdivided and recorded lots for the purpose of sale and residential development. According to the City of Goldsboro's UDO, the applicant is required to follow the city's subdivision approval process since the total number of existing lots will be increased from 9 to 12. The zoning for the area is R6 residential. Currently, all existing lots are vacant, with the exception of lot number 9, which is occupied by an existing single-family dwelling, which is, let's come back there, right here. No, right here. As previously stated, the submitted preliminary plat contains a total of 12 lots proposed for residential developments. As you see, the setbacks front, rear, side, and side corner lot. No new streets are proposed for the subdivision. North Alabama Avenue, Marshall Street, North Georgia Avenue are existing city streets paved and maintained by the city of Goldsboro. City water and sewer are available to serve all lots within the proposed subdivision. The proposed subdivision is not located within a special flood hazard area. Keep in mind, this is not what we can typically see at one of our conventional subdivisions where all lots are laid out for development itself. This is an existing residential neighborhood where the developer decided to, instead of bringing 3 separate plats, he could just do a simple recombination of a whole plat, including these properties, and or subdivide lots that were meeting the requirements of the R6 zoning district. But the kicker is when he went from 9 to 12, it triggered our major subdivision review process. That's what all this boils down to. What you see here is you're going to see this larger lot was subdivided into 2. We had this larger lot was 1. It was divided into 2. Across the street here, this lot is being divided into 2, and one more. I believe that was it. So, again, are there any questions of staff regarding this subdivision?
Is there older houses there right now, or?
No, so they've all been torn down or demolished, yes, sir.
Because I was trying to, picture that where it was at, I know now.
They've been working on this, I would say, probably the last year to try to repurpose the whole subdivision there. It's infill development, it's good for the city.
I agree.
Yeah,
It
Tim,
needs it
totally
out
agree.
that way.
It's great to see the property be able to be used in a positive manner in that regard.
So Habitat actually are do they own the lots now already?
Yes, sir.
So they'll just build them in stages? The
Yes, sir.
housing?
Is there any more questions or discussion? If not, we'll take a motion on this item.
They do a pretty good job of building a house from what I've seen in the past.
Absolutely.
Take a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay. All right, Ms. Barnett makes a motion to approve agenda item 3B, which is S6-20. That's seconded by Mr. Walson. All in favor of that motion, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. That motion carries.
Very well. I'll just brief you real quickly. We have 2 rezoning requests coming up in September along Berkeley Boulevard, 606 North Berkeley, 1804 North Berkeley. And we do have the subdivision plat request also along 1804 North Berkeley Boulevard. That's it. Thank you.
All right.
All righty.
We're adjourned.